Hey everybody, and welcome back to the board meeting. Today I am talking about teaching board games, actually. Uh, Specifically, 6 tips on teaching board games. Because board games can be pretty complex, and it can be hard to teach people board games. It is kind of an intimidating process. It's intimidating to learn some of these board games because they're so big. It's an intimidating process to teach people board games because everybody's eyes are on you. You're there to help them through the game, help them know what's going on. So yes, let's just talk about 6 tips to help you. And these are tips that I try to follow myself because when I'm playing board games with my board game group, I'd probably say about 80% of the games that I play, I have to be the one that teaches people them. So yes, I'm probably the main teacher for my board game group. And it's a process to teach games, that's for sure. But hopefully these 6 tips will help you teach board games better or get more adequate at it. Let's go to number 6, and these aren't in any specific order. Number 6 is not more important than number 1. But after I said that, number 6 is probably the most important. It is the most common sense one that everybody's going to think about, though. Number 6 is knowing your game, knowing that game really well, knowing it inside and out. Knowing your game really well like that is just going to make the teach that much easier. And how I tend to learn games, because I learn games usually by myself, how I tend to do it is I usually read the rule book. A lot of times I'll watch a how to play video after that. I might watch a playthrough even after that. And even after that, I might set up a dummy game by myself where I play a couple rounds against myself to just see some things that might happen in the games, any questions that might come up that maybe the rules aren't that clear on. So yes, just knowing that game really well. And then maybe before you end up even going to game night that night, skimming through that rule book again to just prepare yourself for it. So yes, that's number 6, is just knowing your game really well. Going to number 5. Number 5 is it's during the setup. Have other people help you set up. The people that you're teaching this game, if they're there and they're helping you set it up, they're just going to learn about that game through that setup process even. Because they're going to know, okay, these are the civilization cards. They go over in this region, and these are these kind of things. These are the meeples that go over here that will be traversing this area. So they'll just learn through the setup process. I mean, they might not learn a lot, but they'll familiarize themselves with the boards, with the cards, with some of the objects in the game. So yeah, that's a very simple one. Just have people help you set up the game, and that will teach them a little bit along the way. Number 4 is use the theme to help you teach the game. If that game is a thematic game, if the theme makes sense mechanically, make sure you use that to help teach that game, because it'll make it easier. It'll make the game make more sense for other players. One game I'll talk about is viticulture. Viticulture is about running your own vineyard. But in viticulture, it's very thematic because you have to plant your vines, and then you're going to have to take and harvest those and bring those grapes to the crush pad. You're going to then have to take those and bring them into the cellar where you're going to bottle that wine, and then you're going to have to find a contract to sell that wine for. So it's a very step-by-step, very thematic process in viticulture. And when you explain that, it kind of just makes sense, and it makes teaching easier if you use that theme to your advantage when teaching players. So yes, number 4, just using that theme. Number 3 is have a game plan. Simply have a game plan when you're going in. Don't, if you just pick out a game, just don't pick out a game and like, okay, I'm gonna go and teach this without thinking another thought about it. When you're picking out a game and you're bringing it to game night, have a game plan. Know how you're going to teach that game. So, and not everybody's going to teach the same way, but how I kind of do it, I just do a general overview of the game when I'm teaching. I do who are we, what are we doing, how does the game end, how are we getting points, and I just do a general overview of that game so people know what the theme is at least, and some of the things that are happening. And then after I've done the overview of that, then I will go through the rounds and the phases of the game, go through the rounds, going through those phases, explaining step by step that process. I try not to skip around, because when you skip around, you tend to confuse people. If you're talking about this and people are like, I don't know anything about that yet, and you're explaining some very detailed stuff about that spot. So yes, just have that, going down that, and then after I've done all like the rounds, the phases, then I will then do a brief recap of everything, the rounds and the phases again, just everything, just briefly. And then after that, I will always ask if anyone has any questions, and make sure you're answering questions as well, because people are going to have questions. So yes, just ask if anyone has any questions, and if they do, just go back and talk about it again. So yes, number 3 was just have a game plan. Number 2 just kind of feeds into that game plan sort of thing. Number 2 is practice teaching the game. And that seems like a silly thing to do, but a lot of times if I pick out a game that I want to play that night, and it's been a while since I've taught that game, I will actually sit and I will think of that game plan, and then I might just practice teaching the game to that wall. I'll talk to the camera, say that I'm just going to go through and practice teaching that game, because the more you practice something, the better you're going to get at it, and teaching board games is no different. And so a lot of the time, like I've taught Century Golem Edition, which is a pretty simple game, probably 30 to 40 times now at this point. I feel like I'm pretty good at that, teaching that game. 1, because I know the game really well, so I don't have to look at the rule book at all. And 2, because I've taught it so much. I'm going to be a whole lot better at teaching board games that I've taught before. And so practicing just bumps up those practice numbers, bumps up those numbers of times that you've taught it. Because when you're practicing, just be conscious that you're making sure you're not skipping anything. Just going through everything and pretend like people are there. That seems silly, but I think it might be important. So going to number 1, number 1 is patience. Have patience with people in a couple different ways. Have patience with people that are asking questions. Have patience with people that don't seem to be catching on very easily. Everybody learns at a different pace. Everybody learns differently even. Some people might learn better if they're reading. Some people might learn better if they're getting taught it. Some people might learn better from watching a video. Everybody is different, and everybody's going to learn at a different pace. So just be patient with people, especially if you have to repeat yourself a couple times. This might be something that I need to practice on, is patience. But just try not to get frustrated with people. Just have patience with everyone. Everyone's there to have a good time, so just be patient with everyone. We're all friends. So yes, number 1 is patience. And that will wrap up this video. So if you did enjoy this video, make sure to like and subscribe to see more weekly content from me, Shane, at the board meeting in the future. I hope you all have an amazing day. Take care, everyone.